Where you are, you might just be overwhelmed by the darkness of your brokenness. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now, at a certain point in your journey, I believe, you will either develop a very good paradigm, a very good frame of reference, a very good way of thinking about what's happening to you, or you will develop one that does not serve you that well. One that's not explaining the depth of your beingness, your humanity, your challenges within that for yourself very well. We get that. If you do not have a good frame of reference to understand your world, then your world becomes very complicated and complex, even difficult. We are forced, not by our choice, we are forced to deal with things which we would not have chosen, was it up to us. I think. I can't speak for you. But if we could go back and say, before our children was born, and you had a choice, and God in some way would consult you and say, tell me what would you like, and let me give you that. I doubt whether any one of us would have chosen what we got. Okay, I'm through the tunnel now. I've lived through it, having Dylan, which is 20, and Matthew, which is 10. I to have two others, normal ones between them as well. I've got 5 kids. But having been journeyed through the tunnel, through the darkness, through the brokenness, through the pain, through the crying, through the totally not understanding why, because that is the fundamental question we ask when we are there. Why? Or why me? Or why not her? Why me? And we all know people come and in their own inability to show empathy, they still try to do, and they tell us things like, you know, God only gives children like this to the strong. And we think silently to ourselves, I wish you were strong, so that he can give it to you. And in that moment we realize that we also don't have empathy with those that do not understand where we are. And we have to grow that empathy and to release them also to express, even though in a lump, a not sufficient way, their empathy with us and their condolences with us. But I chatted to someone this week that said, really, when she thinks about this, it's really strong people that got children like these. And those words I could not tolerate 20 years ago. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me I'm strong. I do not want to be strong. Give me a normal child and keep me weak. Then saying I'm strong when you give me this child. This is not part of my plan. This is not part of my journey as I anticipated it, as I projected the vision for my life. This is wrong. This is a mistake. But maybe 20 years later, looking back, no, I don't want it any different. I want this. I want it to be like this. But in this journey, obviously, and you know what I'm talking about, in this journey, the way that our paradigms, our ways of thinking have been shifted by what we had to deal with continuously, made us who we are today. And if there are people around us that come and pluck of the fruit of our lives, and they taste it and say it's good, we know fundamentally it comes from our brokenness, from our inability to deal with the deepest traumas that the human being can deal with, and that is loss. Loss of a normal child. You don't have that. You have to deal with loss. One of the things, and this was round about, in my case, when Dylan was about 1 year old. I cried for 9 months every day. I held him and I cried all my tears on his face. I just couldn't accept this. Just didn't want to deal with this. I couldn't. I don't know. Didn't know how. I can remember 2 incidents that I think was profound. And I'm not, again, maybe just categorize this. I don't want you to think I'm your benchmark. I'm not. You've got such intricacies of your life. Your life is so beautiful and so complex, actually, that whatever I say is, if you can find anything that makes sense, it would be a miracle. But if you do find it, and it brings light and shines light on your own understanding of where you are, what you're going through, what you have to deal with, then I can just shout with you, hallelujah. But one of the things that I know, it was round about when Dylan was 9 months old, just couldn't stop crying. Just couldn't stop crying. And I sat there, and it was sort of the last time that I didn't cry the next day after that. And I had this conversation with God. And I said, I do not understand your ways. You've given me a brain to work things out, to understand them. Because when we can come to a place where we understand, peace comes. But I do not understand this. But even though I do not understand this, I will now submit my right to understand. And in that simple act, some peace came, but deep peace, profound peace. When I stopped asking the question why. And I'm not telling you to stop asking the question why. I'm just relating my story with you. Because if you are still at that place to ask why, it's fine. You're not wrong. This is not a thing of right and wrong. Not. This is a thing of trying to find truth in this all. To try to move closer to the truth where you can find freedom. It's not you wrong and this one is right. And I know we're there when we especially when we get our first diagnosis. There's this deep denial on the one side. Most probably all of us, our first doctor told us this, we hate him or her. We don't go back to that doctor. He doesn't have empathy. She doesn't have empathy. One day I would like to talk to them and say, if you're the one that gave the first diagnosis, you're not much loved, are you? Because it's just so intense. It hits you so hard. It ripples into your being so deeply that there's just no way that you can make sense of what this guy is telling you. Your ears does not compute what it hears. So if you are there where you're still asking why, it's fine. Maybe having a little bit of grace with yourself is a good idea. It's good to have grace with yourself.